Now, we have to be clear, there are some very specific circumstances which allow this topic to exist and not be seen as a terrible idea. Because today we are going over to an article published on sportsnet.ca by Eric Francis, the local Calgary Flames beat reporter, who went out there and asked a question about a potential trade between the Flames and the Florida Panthers. Could a reunion between Calgary and Sam Bennett make sense? And I know what some of y'all might immediately jump to with this trade idea. Wait a minute, Sam Bennett? Isn't he on the Florida Panthers? Isn't he doing very well with the Panthers? Aren't the Panthers a playoff caliber team? Aren't they going to try to repeat? In what world are the Florida Panthers, who are 6th overall in the NHL and 3rd overall in the Eastern Conference, in what world are they going to sell? And this is kind of the dichotomy here. Because it's true that Sam Bennett is a very good player, playing for a very good team, that is still trying to go out there and remain competitive. You could very well debate, oh yeah, but the Panthers have made the Cup Finals 2 years in a row, and they won the Stanley Cup last year, so what more do they have to go out there and accomplish? Well, if you got a chance to run it back, you try to run it back. That's the thing. And Sam Bennett is a guy who, right now, is on a contract that expires at the end of this season, making $4.425 million a year. 28 years old, this year he is on pace for a 64-point campaign. He's got 27 points in 34 games, he made Team Canada at the NHL's Four Nations Face-Off, and ever since going over to Florida, Sam Bennett has been a beast. He was over a point per game with that team in the shortened stint after he got traded over there, and then he immediately followed that up with a 49-point season, a 40-point season, which only took place in 63 games, and then a 41-point season last year. So he really did explode offensively upon his arrival in Florida, and everything that we have seen out of Bennett with his constant agitation, his physicality, the way he's able to get under everybody's skin whilst producing significant points in the process, he's been a really good treat for that team. Right now, Daily Faceoff has him as the second-line center alongside of Matthew Tkachuk and Evan Rodriguez, with Barkov, Carter Verhaeghe, and Sam Reinhart on the first line. And the fact that the Florida Panthers can afford to have Matthew Tkachuk, of all people, on that second line kind of goes to show you how good they are as a team in general. Sam Reinhart, don't even get me started on him and his goal production. He's been fantastic this season. But Sam Bennett being the center to Matthew Tkachuk, it bodes well with how difficult it is to play against that particular line. These guys are tough, they're rough, they're really, really annoying, and Sam Bennett is the straw that stirs the drink down center on that line. Now, the question is whether or not Sam Bennett would find himself in Calgary. Is that a possibility here? Well, let's go back over onto the Sportsnet article and read what Eric Francis has to say. Sam Bennett has come an awful long way since his days in Calgary as a healthy scratch. So much so that he may soon have the opportunity to contemplate a lucrative return to the city that drafted him. As for a hint as to why that could be a possibility, consider this little nugget from the Panthers head coach Paul Maurice when asked about the instant transformation Bennett made upon his arrival in Florida almost 4 years ago. As a matter of fact, when I did talk to him early about what was the change, he said, well, I got to come here and I got to play with Jonathan Huberdeau, and then I moved into the middle, said Maurice. Sometimes it's just finding the right guy to go get your confidence back. It's not a coach or a city, it's another player to play with. And with that in mind, it's very easy to see where Eric Francis is attacking this idea from now, isn't it? The Calgary Flames have been actively searching for an impact center since they lost Elias Lindholm last winter. They've also been looking desperately for someone to help Huberdeau regain his Florida form. Aside from Bennett being in his late 20s, few players fit the profile they're looking for better than old Benny, who is in line for a massive payday as a pending free agent. A 2-time 20-goal scorer in Florida who has upped his productivity to almost a point per game this season, it's Bennett's grit and playoff prowess that would make him one of the most sought-after players on the open market this summer. The Panthers will continue to try hard to using their expanding cap space to keep him around. However, failed negotiations could result in a trade, or he could simply sign elsewhere after one last postseason binge in South Florida. And I think that's a lot more of the likely scenario here. Hey, Bennett is on an expiring deal, but the Panthers might not have the money to commit to him. However, they still have him, and they want to be competitive, they want to be in the playoffs, they want to win a cup again, so why not just treat Sam Bennett as your own rental, a la Toronto Maple Leafs style, and be like, yeah, okay, this is our guy. Just imagine we paid no money for him, no assets for him, no draft picks, no prospects, no roster players, we just have him, and we can think about him as a rental for our team as we try to make a playoff run one more time. If the Panthers repeat, if they go back-to-back like Florida did, then okay, who cares if Sam Bennett leaves in free agency? The guy helped you win 2 cups. There's no reason to be sour graping about him not sticking around, unless you were looking for a three-peat, which at that point, beggars can't be choosers, right? So, if Sam Bennett finds himself in some sort of a free agent push, then the Calgary Flames, could they be going out there and saying, yeah, we need to get the guy that reignited his game alongside of Huberdeau, because now that he's super good, maybe Huberdeau can reignite his own game alongside of this guy. It kind of goes full circle, doesn't it? And if there is some sort of an uncertainty for Florida, if they don't decide to keep him around past the trade deadline, could we see some sort of a trade instead? Could Sam Bennett be a rental caliber asset for another team, and then he re-signs somewhere else in the offseason? Honestly, I think it's unlikely. I think if any team's going to go out there and acquire Bennett to be a rental, you could pretty much just say, no, why would Florida give him up then? Unless they're super confident that they're not going to be able to re-sign this guy and they don't see any value in keeping him around for the playoffs, there's no reason to trade him away, to be honest, right? I think it's a lot more likely that he just finds himself on another team in free agency rather than gets traded, but, of course, anything can happen here. Anywho, the article goes out there and says this: Bennett was the organization's highest pick of all time, going 4th overall in 2014. With more than $19 million in projected cap space, GM Craig Conroy is poised to make a big splash when he feels the right player comes along. It helps that much, like signing a widely popular Ryan Lomberg this summer, the Flames are indeed familiar with Bennett. Coaches are gone, and Brad Treliving, who presided over the early, frustrating years of Bennett's time in Calgary, where he was predominantly used as a bottom 6 winger. It was early in his 6th year in Calgary that Bennett asked for a trade, as his ice time continued to dwindle and his productivity never returned to the 18-goal pace of his rookie stint. His penchant for offensive zone penalties plagued him, and his short stints as a center never worked out. There were definitely times for my career in Calgary and the way things were going, I definitely wouldn't have thought I would have been picked for Team Canada, said the 28-year-old Saturday before his club was blanked 3-0 by the Flames. But I knew deep down I was more of a player than I ever showed in Calgary, and I could be more of a player. I think I just needed that fresh start. And so now that he's good, do you think this is a reasonable ad for the Calgary Flames? Is there a possibility here for reunion, revival, a renewal of the vows here? Who was once the top draft pick in the organization's history, could we see him find himself in a Calgary Flames jersey one more time? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you're a Calgary Flames fan. How do you feel about the idea of Sam Bennett either getting signed or traded for by the Calgary Flames in 2025? Is this a possibility that you think is realistic? Do you want to see this go down? If you're a Cats fan, what are your thoughts about other teams eyeing Sam Bennett? Do you want to keep this guy around? Do you think it's possible? He's going to get a massive pay raise, of course, but does that work for the Florida Panthers and their plans? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this British 9, and bye.